Hi, everyone. I'm Sue Berry. I am a product manager in mobile platform, and I focus on simplifying the application development experience for developers and admins.
Hey everyone, my name is Ashwin Nair, and I'm also a product manager on the mobile platform. My team focuses on mobile platform developer experiences. Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, and today we're going to show you all of the great features and tools that we have to simplify it for developers that are building, testing, and debugging Lightning Web Components for mobile. So I'm sure you're familiar with this slide. We are going to talk about roadmap items, but please make purchasing decisions based on our current features and products. And before we get started, we just want to thank you. Most of the features and tools that we add are based on feedback from our internal and external developers. We definitely appreciate the feedback. We provide better solutions for you based on that feedback, so please keep it coming via the Trailblazer community. Okay, so today, as we go through our session, the first thing that we're going to talk about are the mobile apps that you're building experiences for, some of the out-of-the-box mobile apps. And then we'll focus on building LWCs with a specific focus on those native device capabilities that you can add. We'll talk about automated testing and how you can do that with the Salesforce app. And then debugging. We hear a lot from our developers that we need better debugging, especially for LWCs for mobile. And so we're going to show you the tooling that we have to help you do that. Okay, so quick poll. How many of you are already building LWCs for mobile here? Okay, great, few of you. What about for offline use cases? Okay, good, a couple of you. Thank you. For those that are not yet building for mobile, welcome. I think I'm just going to take a minute to get on the same page on why you should consider mobile when you're building LWCs. You know, we've all been in situations where we lose cell service, you know, whether we're in a hospital, whether we're trying to get work done on an airplane with that terrible Wi-Fi that goes in and out all the time, or whether you're on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean. We actually have customers with workers in all of these situations. And it's important that they're able to get their work done while they're on the go and regardless of network connectivity. You know, they can't wait till they get back to an office to be able to get information from the server or sync information from the server. So we need to build LWC solutions that help them be productive while they're out and about on the go getting their job done and regardless of network connectivity. So at Salesforce, we offer many ways to build mobile experiences. You know, on the left here, we have our out-of-the-box solutions. You know, we have Mobile Publisher for Experience Cloud, Salesforce app, and field service. You know, with Mobile Publisher, this connects to unauthenticated or authenticated experience sites. It takes that experience site from a desktop-only app to a fully branded mobile companion app. And with Mobile Publisher, you can add native tabs, and you can also add native capabilities, and these come from the LWCs that you're building. An example of how someone would use this is a user may scan their prescriptions when they're filling out healthcare forms for a healthcare app. With Salesforce app, this is connecting authenticated experiences for B2B and B2E scenarios. Okay, and this is using your mobile device, and you get full Salesforce CRM capabilities. And this may be a salesperson updating their account visits and also updating their account information, and this is while they're out and about on the go meeting with customers. And then the field service app, this is specifically geared for field workers. These are your utility workers, appliance repair workers. They're out in the field, they're completing the job, and often they're in spotty network conditions. So for field service, offline is very important for them. And they need to be able to complete those work orders regardless of network connectivity. And then on the right, we have Mobile SDK. Mobile SDK enables developers to build custom and even native experiences with code. Here you can use Swift, Java, Kotlin, React Native. You can build hybrid solutions. We won't be talking about or going deep into Mobile SDK today, but we can definitely answer questions if you have questions about Mobile SDK after the session. And I mentioned that offline is critical for some of our mobile customers. And so with Salesforce App, with our Salesforce App Plus, you can now get standard and custom LWCs to work offline out of the box. It's the same binary as the Salesforce app, but there's a special area called the offline app that focuses on your offline use cases. And I mentioned that field service, for field service workers, they have workers that go days or weeks before they get a network connection back. If you think about, like I said, the utility workers, you think about oil and gas workers, they rarely go into an office. And you are now able, with our tooling, to build LWC experiences that support these types of workers. And that's where mobile platform comes in. Our job with mobile platform is to help you build custom mobile experiences for the apps that we just discussed. We provide samples, best practices, guidelines, programmatic validators, native access capabilities. We have emulators and simulators for the Salesforce app, and we have a mobile offline test harness. And all of these help you build and debug your LWCs. And we're going to go into those with more detail right now. And so when we look at building LWCs, in addition to those guidelines and best practices, we also have what we call Nimbus. Nimbus plugins enable you to access native device capabilities from within your LWCs. So if you're looking to build experiences where you want to grab the user's location, or you want to use the camera for scanning, or you want to import and export contacts to and from Salesforce and the device, or sync calendar events, Nimbus plugins help you do that. And you can see with our latest plugins, NFC, document scanning, and biometric access, these are now integrated to those mobile apps that we were just discussing. For NFC, this allows you to read NFC data for hardware info. For OCR document scanning, you can use the camera and take a picture of documents or cards and use that text in your Salesforce records. For biometric access, you can engage the biometrics when you want additional verification of device owner. And you're doing this all from within the LWCs. And the nice thing with doing this, where it's going to show up in a mobile app, is that once you get that permission from the user, you don't have to get it again. If you're doing this from the mobile browser, every time that user accesses the page, it has to ask permissions again. And then we've also recently updated some of our existing our Nimbus plugins as well. If you're using barcode scanner, you can now scan driver's licenses. We have added an AAM-VA parser so that when you scan driver's licenses, you actually get the data and you can use that within Salesforce. That was a big request from our developer community. And also for the OCR document scanner, we have added an ML parser that will detect whether it's looking at a document, is it looking at a business card, are we looking at an address, and it will do its best to put that in a readable format for you to be able to use. It is not 100% accurate, so it is an optional feature. If you just want to get a dump of the text and parse it yourself, you can do that too. And then on the App Exchange, we actually have a barcode template for flows. This can give you a quick head start to create LWC experiences without writing much code, but we also provide the source code. So if you want to use it as a template for you to build your own barcode scanner template for flows, you can do that too. You can modify it and get your own experiences out of it. And we're looking to add more of those templates as well and put them on the App Exchange, and it's free for you to download. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at some of our latest plugins in action. Okay, so right here I have my NFC, and with all of our plugins in your LWCs, the first thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you're importing that Nimbus plugin directly from Lightning Mobile capabilities. So you'll add that import statement. And then what we always recommend is you are checking to see if that service is available. Does that device support NFCs, as an example? And then here we read the NFC, and then we do something with the result. And in addition to what we have here in this code, not only can you read, but you can also write to NFCs, and you can also erase the data as well. If I look at the OCR document scanner, again, the same thing. I import get document scanner from Lightning Mobile capabilities. And here, I can specify that I can use the device camera, and I can also use the photo library as where I'm getting that scanned document from. I say this scanner is available, and then I go ahead and scan, and then again, I process those scan results. And so like those pieces that I'm showing you are the pieces that are specific to the plugin, but everything else is what you're already familiar with LWCs. Okay, and then this last one, I'm going to show you the code, and then I'll show you it working in action in Mobile Publisher. So again here, I import get biometric service from Lightning Mobile capabilities. I make sure that the biometric service is available. And then I just ask the device, is this the device owner? And it gives me thumbs up or thumbs down, and then I can go ahead and either say, sorry, we can't continue, or we go ahead and just proceed with what we were doing before. And that's what I'm going to show you right now with our Mobile Publisher app. Okay, so here I am in my Mobile Publisher app, and this app has a lot of our Nimbus plugins in use. If I'm looking for a local healthcare location, I can click on Start Search, and it'll find the locations nearest to me. It says, I'm here at Moscone with you, and it gives me the locations near me. But what I want to look at today is if I go over to Account, I want to be able to update my profile information. And so when I click Edit to update my profile, it says, hey, let's just do a double check that this is really you. So when I click on Verify Biometrics, it does the Face ID, it says I am me, and then I can go ahead and make that update. And very simple. And like I said, most of it is LWC code that you're familiar with. We're just adding in a few specific pieces to the plugin, and we have samples in our LWC Developers Guide to show you exactly how to do that. Okay, I'll hand it over to Ashwin to talk about automated testing.
Awesome. Thanks, Sue. So up next, let's chat a little bit about automated testing. We understand how important it is for developers to be able to feel confident about their configurations before sending it upstream to their Salesforce mobile app instances. And with that in mind, we've put together capabilities that allow you to leverage our mobile tooling in order to write automation tests so you can make sure that your changes are ready to go and that you feel confident about them before you send them upstream. So how exactly can we do this? To do this, we have a couple of different features at hand. So first is the ability to leverage our simulator and emulator builds. And what this means is you'll be able to go in directly through our developer hub and download Android APK and iOS IPA files corresponding to the Salesforce mobile app. And once you've downloaded it, you can go ahead and directly drag and drop the IPA or APK file directly into your simulator or emulator builds locally in your environment. So that way you can play around with the app just as you would on a physical device. And this becomes key because this leads directly into automation testing flows where you can leverage mobile page objects. We leverage our UTAM mobile page object generation flows through which you'll be able to access specific selectors corresponding to our mobile app instances. And using these specific page objects, you can identify the specific selectors in order to write automation tests against. So for instance, if you have a button on a specific screen and you want to be able to simulate an action to say if it's clicked, a certain reaction needs to take place, you can leverage that selector logic through our UTAM recipes in order to do that. And that leads to the third step, which is the Appium automation tests, which is some of the ways that you can leverage our automation testing tools in order to build out these automation tests. And Appium is one of the most common automation testing tools for mobile. So you can go ahead and directly link the instance of your simulator and emulator builds directly into the Appium instance. And from there, you'll be able to go ahead and start writing your automation tests to make sure everything is ready to go based on your specific configurations. So how do we get started by doing this? To do this, it's just 4 simple steps. First up is to go ahead and download the simulator or emulator build directly from within the developer hub. So you can go in and download it directly onto your local environment and get it set up. Second step would be to go into our GitHub repositories and access our mobile page object recipe book. This is a GitHub repository, completely open source, from where you can download some of the most common page objects that we leverage in order to write those automation test cases. And don't worry, all of these documents and things along those lines will be made available to you guys right after this session. And in addition to this, the next step would be to go in and install your Appium instance locally into your environment, and then from there, you'll be able to interface with it in order to go ahead and start writing your automation test cases, which is the fourth and final step. And from there, you can go in and make sure that your configurations are validated and you can feel confident about them before you send them upstream to your Salesforce mobile app instances. Now, let's pivot a little bit into LWC for mobile. So Lightning Web Components are key to mobile app experiences. We leverage a lot of the same Lightning Web componentry that you guys may be familiar with from the web side. And that is very key because it directly also links to our emulator builds. So a little bit earlier, we had just chatted about how you can use the simulator and emulator builds in order to connect to Appium instances to write automation tests, right? But on the flip side of that, you can also use those same simulator and emulator builds to go ahead and test and debug your Lightning Web Components directly from within mobile. And you can do this by going ahead and downloading that same APK and IPA file and accessing the Salesforce mobile app and the offline app and any Lightning Web Components within. And in order to test and debug those specific Lightning Web Components, you can leverage our WebView debugging tools, such as the Chrome debuggers and Safari debuggers. You can go ahead and directly download that APK or IPA file and link it to the Safari or Chrome debuggers, and from there, you'll be able to take a look at all the JavaScript API calls that are being made to make sure that your configurations from your JavaScript files are properly being reflected within your Lightning Web Componentry. So let's take a quick look at a demo of how this can be done. So before we go into our simulator build, I wanted to take a look at some code. So over here, I have a createAccountRecord.js file corresponding to an offline app-specific Lightning Web Component. And as Sue had just mentioned a little bit earlier, offline is a pretty big use case spanning across many different domains and locations. So let's go ahead and kind of dive a little bit deeper into some of the use cases and some sample Lightning Web Components. So over here, I've gone ahead and created a createAccountRecord Lightning Web Component, which queries for a name, phone, website, industry, and type field that'll be generated and made available to the user. And they go ahead and fill out that information, and on success, it will go ahead and return a console log saying the account has been created and return with the event detail corresponding to the payload. And this will be key, and we'll get back to it right in a quick second. But before we do that, let me go back into the createAccountRecord file and go into the HTML. So over here, I have 5 Lightning input fields for name, phone, website, industry, and type corresponding to those fields that we just went ahead and created. Now, let me switch directly into our simulator view here. So over here, I have a view of the Salesforce mobile app running, and this is a view of the offline app. So actually, let me show you guys how you can actually access the offline app from within the Salesforce app. So here is a view of the Salesforce mobile app up and running in my simulator build. And it's the same flow as I mentioned, just simply drag and drop that IPA file into the simulator on Xcode, and you're up and running. Once you log in, you can just go into the menu tab here, click into the app launcher, and if you have our Salesforce mobile app plus SKU enabled, you'll be able to see the offline app up and running here. Once you click into the offline app, you're directly navigated into this flow. And now, let's go ahead and try to create a brand new account record. So I'm going to go in here into Accounts and click plus over here, and it will automatically load up my Lightning Web Component to create a new account. And if you see here, it corresponds to the same 5 fields: name, phone, website, industry, and type. Now, before we get started, I want to do one more quick thing, which is to enable my Safari debugger tools. So we need to go in and enable those Safari debugger tools in order to see the action of the Lightning Web Components taking place here. And the simulator builds require Safari debuggers, while if you have an emulator build for Android, you can leverage Chrome. So over here, I have this iPhone 15 Pro Max. So let me go into the develop option right here and hover over the over the Pro Max. And within the Salesforce app itself, it'll identify the Lightning Web component over here. And if we see, it's hovered directly over it, similar to how you would on a website, where if you hover over a specific element on the website, it'll automatically pick it up. And it's the same flow over here. So if I now click into this specific item, it will go ahead and load up the corresponding HTML, CSS, JavaScript, all of the source code corresponding to this Lightning Web Component, but directly from within the mobile simulators. In addition to this, I also have access to the console, so we'll be taking a look at it here. Now let me go back into the Lightning Web Component and create a brand new account record. So this demo org that I have here is called Aviation Airlines, and I personally really like flights and playing around with it. So let's go ahead and create a flight-themed, an airlines-themed account. So let me go ahead and call this Salesforce Airlines, and let me just go ahead and give it a quick phone number as a random one, and I'm going to go ahead and click Create for now. So now, if we go back in here, you can see that it's gone ahead and returned a console log after the account's been created. You see this create account record right here. In addition to this, you also see the payload corresponding to the account's object. You can see the fields that have been updated, such as a name value being Salesforce Airlines. You can also see the phone number that's been updated to correspond to the value, and things along those lines. And that's not just all. You can directly drill into the code and see the code in action here. And you can also choose to do things such as add breakpoints in the lines of code if there's any specific items or things that you'd like to debug within the source code as it runs on your mobile device. So now, let's pivot back to the slides. Keeping again with the theme of the offline app, I wanted to touch on a couple of more offline themed items that we have for you guys. One is our offline starter kit. This is a tool that developers can leverage in order to build Lightning Web Components for offline specific needs. So if you're building any new Lightning Web Component quick actions or any types of flows, you can directly leverage this. This is an open source GitHub repository from which you can download the contents, and it will provide you a tool, a cookie cutter tool that you can use to be able to create those Lightning Web Components. In addition to this, you can also go through the process of generating custom landing pages through these flows. So you can go in and generate your mobile home screen in the offline app instance through our landing page componentry. In addition to this, we also have our onboarding wizard. This onboarding wizard is a tool that's available through our Salesforce mobile extensions for Visual Studio Code. This is a brand new extension that we released a couple of months earlier within the VS Code marketplace. And once you download it, one of the tools is our onboarding wizard, which is a hand-holding tool that goes hand in hand with the starter kit repository we had just touched on a little bit earlier. The starter kit repository will go through the process of from connecting your org to your local instance, all the way to creating your Lightning Web Components, to generating your landing page configurations, the whole nine, and deploying that source to org. And the onboarding wizard is a hand-holding tool that will help developers go through the process of configuring that code and making sure that everything is ready to go. And in this V2 of the onboarding wizard, we've gone ahead and added two new enhancements. First is landing page templates. So previously, we primarily had the default option, but going forwards, we've gone ahead and created custom templates for use cases such as case management, retail execution, and healthcare. In addition to this, you also have the option to go ahead and create Lightning Web Component quick actions on a click of a button. So for instance, if you're creating a case management type template, but you realize that you don't have case objects within your given local environment of VS Code, it will automatically go in through the onboarding wizard and flag it to you that those Lightning Web Component quick actions are missing, for instance, for create, view, and edit quick actions. So once you do this, it will automatically show red X's, and if you click that Generate LWC Quick Actions button, it'll automatically turn those red X's into green checks and have those source code added directly into your local environment. In addition to this, we also have one more tool, which is our ESLint programmatic validation for offline use. This becomes key because when you're building Lightning Web Components for offline use, it's very important to make sure that those Lightning Web Components are actually available and ready to use in the offline state. It can be very tricky because these are Lightning Web Components and offline is primarily a mobile-specific scenario. So we've gone ahead and created tooling within our VS Code implementations that you can use in order to go in and make sure that everything is ready to go. So for instance, if you have an @wire that you're putting together and it's querying a specific method that you're looking to use for your Lightning Web Components, using inline syntax, the ESLint programmatic validation tools will let you know that, hey, this method reference won't work offline, it's not offlineable, maybe let's try something else. It'll give you that warning inline, and you can use that in order to make any changes to your componentry as needed. And the best part about this is it's easy to install. If you go ahead and directly download the VS Code extension for Salesforce Mobile, or if you go ahead and directly download the starter kit, you'll be able to have access to these directly out of the box. And even if not, it's a simple NPM install as well. Now, we just touched on how you can go through the process of building Lightning Web Components. But the back half of that is to make sure that you're able to properly test and debug those Lightning Web Components. That's very key because we want to make sure that those Lightning Web Components that you're building are ready to go in the offline state. And in order to do this, we have our test harness. And in the latest release that we've put together, we've enabled 3 new enhancements. One is the access to your offline briefcase records. So folks using offline are pretty familiar, may be pretty familiar with the briefcase. Briefcase is a tool that you can leverage in order to access all of your records within the offline state. And in order to access this, you can go ahead and now have access to those directly within the test harness. So you can pull down all of your records from your org into your local instance. In addition to this, we also have access to network tracing. Network tracing is a tool that you can use in order to go in and identify all of the REST API calls that are being made against the Lightning Web Components. So any get, put, post requests that take place from start of interaction within a Lightning Web Component to finish will all be logged in through this test harness app. And in addition to this, we modeled the test harness interface similar to how you have the offline Salesforce mobile app. So you'll have access to Lightning Web Component quick actions directly out of the box through the test harness, so you can make sure that your configurations are validated and ready to go against the actual Salesforce mobile app offline implementations, so you can make sure everything matches up and you feel confident and comfortable with them. So let's take a look at a quick demo here. So this is a view of the test harness running on my simulator. And this test harness build is similar to the Salesforce mobile app emulator build, where you just go ahead and drag and drop into the simulator and you'll be able to have access to it automatically. So here we have a bunch of different options, such as draft control page refs, network logs, and things like that. I'm going to get back to it, and I'm going to get back to some of these in a quick second, but let me go ahead and click Start in the network logs. And I'll get back to you again in 1 second as to why I just did that now. But before we do that, let's go into the draft controls. We see that the number of drafts here is set as 0. Now, if we go into the S-Objects tab, this lists out all of the Salesforce objects within your given org. Now, if you click into the Accounts object, you'll be able to see that that Salesforce Airlines account record that we created through the build flow demo a little bit earlier is right here. You can drill in, and you'll have access to all the Lightning Web Component quick actions that are corresponding to it as well. So let me go ahead and create a brand new account in this flow here. So let me go ahead and, keeping with the theme of airlines, let's call this TDX Airlines, and also just give it a random phone number. And let's go ahead and click Create. And just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and create one more called Ashwin Airlines. And I'm going to give it another phone number. And click Create. So now, if we go back into the Home tab, we see that the draft control, the number of drafts, have gone from 0 to 2. What this means is this has gone ahead and noticed that I have 2 draft records of those Lightning Web Component quick actions in my local environment, and it will go ahead and identify those and show the contents of it that you can validate against before sending it upstream to your Salesforce orgs. So if you see here, you have access to the raw data for the create action, as well as the status of it being pending. In addition to this, you can also drill directly down into the record data. So if you see here, you have access to all the fields corresponding to the S-Objects and all the values and things that have been updated in addition to it as well. So now, since these are in a draft state, let me go ahead and start the queue in order to get these drafts sent upstream to the Salesforce web apps. So let me go ahead and click Start Queue. whoops, looks like my system might have. Let me go ahead and just. Drafts, start queue.
Well, at least you know it's a live demo.
Yep, yes, it is a live demo. So it's something. But essentially what will take place is these number of drafts will go from 2 to 0 as these queues process. So what this will do is this will validate against any triggers or any actions that take place within the given configurations, and it will go ahead and take those downstream and send it up to your Salesforce web app instances. So coming back to our web app over here, if we go ahead and click refresh in the accounts tab, we'll see that Salesforce Airlines org that was created. But one quick thing I did want to touch on was in this specific queue, when this queue would process, it will go ahead and also validate against any triggers that have been configured within your given org. So for instance, here I have this account.name equals Ashwin Airlines trigger. Basically what it will do is if the account name equals Ashwin Airlines, it'll go ahead and say that the trigger has failed, throw an error, and say please try again. And that will go ahead and kick off the process of validating against any types of triggers or actions that take place within your given environment. And this is very handy because it will go ahead and validate any of your configurations and make sure it's ready to go in the offline state before you go ahead and send it upstream to your Salesforce orgs. Now, coming back to our slides, let's take a look a little bit further ahead into some of the stuff coming up soon. One of the key elements that we're going to be focusing on is local dev preview. We know how much you guys love local dev preview, and we know how important Lightning Web Componentry is within the context of local dev preview. And we also understand that mobile development using simulators and emulators using Xcode and Android Studio can be a little bit trickier, challenging for primarily web developers, given that it's Lightning Web Componentry. So we're looking to merge with the local dev preview folks in order to go ahead and provide you guys with abilities to have access to test and develop for mobile apps Lightning Web Componentry, similar to how you would with the web instances. And now, taking a look a little bit further into our roadmap, I know Sue and I had just covered a handful of different aspects, handful of different elements across our different speaking sessions. So over here, let me just quickly recap. Recently, we went ahead and built 3 brand new Nimbus plugins, the OCR document scanner, the NFC, and the biometrics Nimbus plugins. In addition to this, we also released 2 brand new Lightning Web Component samples for AAMVA parsing and signature capture. And in addition to this, we've also added the Onboarding Wizard V2, so you can use it to build offline specific Lightning Web components. Taking a look a little bit ahead into the summer of 24, we'll be looking into having offline specific improvements around our Lightning Map componentry and improving our debugging within the test harness and ESLint rules for VS Code. In addition to this, we've also heard how much you guys love Code Builder, and we're looking to add the Code Builder support for our onboarding wizard as well. Taking a look a little bit further down the line, we'll be looking into, in the winter of 25, access to Lightning Web Components for local dev preview within mobile. And in addition to this, debugging improvements for our test harness, more debugging improvements for our ESLint rules, and some configurations around Aura to mobile LWC generation as well. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, here is a list of all of our tools and resources. Definitely do take a scan of this QR code, and you'll be able to have access to all the fun stuff that we put together. Our developer tooling team and our content writing team was hard at work putting together these for us. So definitely do take a look at these and take a look to learn more. Oh, I'll give you guys a couple of seconds to get the QR code scans. And that's it. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. We hope you guys enjoyed it, and definitely do reach out to us if you guys have any questions with regards to any of these topics. We're here for the remainder of the day, as well as for within our Trailblazer booths over here. So do reach out to us if any questions, and also through our Trailblazer communities as well.
Accepted.